it's not because you're doing a live that it stops at the live, right? So you can create a conversation after the live. And first of all, it's content. And it's evergreen content.
Welcome to Honest Ecommerce, a podcast dedicated to cutting through the BS and finding actionable advice for online store owners. I'm your host, Chase Clymer, and I believe running a direct-to-consumer brand does not have to be complicated or a guessing game. On this podcast, we interview founders and experts who are putting in the work and creating real results. I also share my own insights from running our top Shopify consultancy, Electric Eye. We cut the fluff in favor of facts to help you grow your e-commerce business. Let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Honest Ecommerce. Today I'm welcoming to the show Nicolas. Nicolas is the co-founder of eStreamly, a live stream and video shopping SaaS platform. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you? So excited to be here.
I'm doing fantastic. So you guys got some crazy claims on your website, right? We're talking about conversion rates in the double digits. So you got me excited. If I am a brand out there, talk to me about how I can get these, 10, 12, 20% conversion rates.
Yeah, well, first of all, we have to realize and recognize that 80% of the commerce today, of the internet consumption is video. And really, there's really no good way to convert from a video to an action of buying a product, right? It's very convoluted. And so how do you make that happen? And so what eStreamly does is we have a buy button and a cart and a payment process right there on that video. So removing that friction that's what the promise about. And so when you think about this, we already know that, a message or it's much more likely to be retained by a consumer and a shopper when it's through a video. And so people want to act on a video. There's really this FOMO attitude about, hey, there's a deal, something going on, you want to check it out. And so what we see is that the conversion rate is really much higher. In the US, at least from what we've seen, in average, we are around 18% conversion rate. We had some 16 to 18% conversion rate on a live stream. On a regular video, so something that is, an evergreen video or something like that, the conversion rate is much lower. You're probably closer to 8-9%. Now, what's very interesting is that this number sounds very big, but when you look at what's going on in China, we're talking about conversion rate in the 50% range. So it's a much, you can see that there's really a lot of rooms to grow on that perspective.
Yeah. Live shopping in China is an insane part of their culture, and it's interesting to see how it is working in America. I've seen it work in some instances, and sometimes it just isn't catching on just because of different kind of cultural things like that. But I think that for the average merchant, if you can find a system and a process to make it work for your business, I think it's a pretty viable channel and sales solution.
Yeah, think about this, right? When you have a physical store, you get this kind of conversion rate anyway, right? So if you have a physical store, like if you like if like a department store, they have 50% conversion rate. That's not my data, right? It's the data out there. Like if you're in the clothing industry, it's closer to 18%. Specialty goods is closer to 30%. So really, when you have a virtual store, which is like a live stream, you no more, no less than have the same kind of ability, right? People come to tune into you. They come to learn about your product. They get excited about your brand. They get to ask the questions that are very relevant to them. And then they buy. If you make it simple for them and you don't have to work up and go I'm on my sofa and I need to go on my drawer to get my credit card, and you can actually have that credit card right there. They make the purchase. So that's really, I think, what's very exciting. The other thing that I want to mention to the audience, and I'm pretty sure some of that audience already know, is that not only you get better conversion rate, you also get lower return. We see that in general, you have 40% less return because people had the chance to ask the questions that are relevant to them, right? Now, we have to say that it's not the magic thing, right? It's not you go live and all of a sudden you're a millionaire. It's the conversion rate is good when it's on your website. And not so much on social. So it's really when it's on your website. And also because you kind of have, inform your audience that something was going on your website. So if you just go live to the stake of going live, no one is aware of it. you're probably going to get 18 or 40% of conversion rate if you only have 2 people and 1 buy, but you need to get the eyeballs too, to really get to some really good place.
Absolutely, Nicolas. So that was my next question that you kind of just got to a little bit before I did, is you're setting up an integration like eStreamly. Basically, if within your business you figure out a live stream solution that works for you, right? And then you get this set up, and it isn't just going live willy-nilly. There's some work before that, which is kind of that strategy and system I was alluding to. Is just having this tool isn't going to do much for you, really. Like, you need to then have the process in place to basically create events around it. Is that just the simplest way to speak to?
Yeah, I love how you present. I think any brands, any retailers that are listening to us and are thinking live streaming, I think you have to ask yourself the very important question of like, what do you want to do with your live stream, right? Do you want to go where the audience is, or do you actually want to create a community and then grow that community and make that community engaging with you, and then, having shopper and owning that first party data on your site? Because depending on that mindset, and if you're thinking campaign versus like growing a community, you have different solutions. If you're thinking campaign or anything, then my recommendation to go is go to Amazon, go to What's Not, go to those places where they already have built-in audience. You go there, you show up, you sell, you move on. That's one way. I think where we eStreamly is more about like, I want to create a community. I want to engage with my shopper. I want to engage with new shoppers and new way of selling. And I want to do that on my site, leveraging social media as a way to access new audience. And so when you think about that way, there's a couple of things you need to think about. First of all, the shopper needs to be aware that something is happening on your site and or on social. So either you work with a celebrity or like a big influencer, and then when they go live, all their followers will receive the notification that they're going live. This works, but it's kind of it's a one-off. First of all, it's very expensive to have some of those creators on staff or like doing this event. So it can be really expensive. And so you can question the ROI at the end. So it's not always recommended, because the reality is the first couple lives are not really performing very well. It's only after 5, 6, 7 lives that you really start to see the sales. And so the second is like, okay, I'm going to do on my website, I'm going to get maybe a lower influencer, not so much a KOL. But you need to compensate with marketing. And so you need to, the best strategy is email marketing. That's what we see the number one so far, what people are doing, like 2 or 3 emails before to advertise for the event, creating a shorter video, like maybe a 1 minute or 30-second, kind of teaser about what's going on, why they should be tuning in, having the right promotion going on, or like a right thing that's going to tune in the consumer. Because at the end of the day, this is an event, right? This is something that I need to be excited about. If I just know that, hey, Chase is going to be live, and I'm following Chase, but he's doing also live anyway, well, that's maybe not compelling enough. Now, if I know that Chase is going to be live, and by the way, the CEO of that wonderful brand that I'm also a customer of is going to go live together, they're going to have a chat, maybe I want to tune in. Or maybe if I know that Chase is going to present this product, and by the way, there are going to be a drop of this other new product that's coming up, that excites me. So you want to create a compelling offer. Doesn't have to be monetary offer. Like, you don't have to be like a cheap discount, but you have to make something that make me want to come in. Do you want to drop an NFT or something? You can go crazy with whatever you want with that, but you want to make it compelling on the product side. And then, advertise for it. You can run ads, email campaign. What we're seeing going very interestingly is SMS, and very few people are using SMS, but when you think that an SMS, you send a link, the people can click on that link, get on that video, see the video, shop from that video. You can't get more seamless than that. And so SMS is a really, really powerful tool that I encourage all my clients to do. Unfortunately, we don't see yet broad adoption, but I think that is yet to come. And I think SMS is going to be a big one too.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of, you're just telling people how to make money right now. You're holding nothing back, and I really appreciate it. One thing that you said there is, don't expect your first one to be a success, and you're just setting expectations of you're going to goof through the first couple live streams. You got to get your sea legs. And I agree completely. Go back and listen to the first couple episodes of this podcast. I didn't know what I was doing. I think I can do a little better now. Right. Just you're going to start to figure it out, and you have to get comfortable with it. And it's going to be something that you're going to need to do continuously within your business. And it's not necessarily just a one and done kind of ordeal. I think with any marketing activity, if you just do it once and you write it off as a failure, like there's no learning iteration from that. Like I think you have to go into it with the mindset of like, we will get better. This is where we're starting. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing. Like you're not saying, oh, we're not on TikTok. Let's go on TikTok. Let's do one TikTok video and move on. Like we're on TikTok now. It doesn't work that way, right? If you have to think it as a channel, and if you think it as a channel, it's like you have to be consistent. You have to set yourself time for that. Now, one of the things that we've seen being successful is because most brand retailers, but also founders that are on the show, both say, hey, I'm afraid of going on camera. I don't have Chase's ability to be fun and enticing and
thank you.
So not everyone has that. But at the end of the day, it can be learned, right? If you don't want to do it, maybe you can find someone within your team that has this ability. But it can be learned. And I think what we've seen successful is finding a co-host. Like, you take a professional that will walk you through the first 20 episodes with you. And then like you get to learn the rope and the good ideas and stuff. And then you feel comfortable enough to go by yourself. And so if you're really thinking through a channel, first of all, I will tell you, people that are thinking through a channel are going to be the success of tomorrow. I have no doubt about this because people want to engage with the founder. We are getting in an era where everything is automated, but more and more people want personalization. They want a relation with you. They want to know who is behind the brand. And there's no better way of doing that through a live stream. And so if you build those relationships on live stream, first of all, shopper are building also relationship with each other. And we see that on live where people start to say, answering each other, greeting each other and all that. So which is really cool in my point of view. And so you're building that community, and that community is going to reward you. And it takes time, but it's a big payoff.
Absolutely. Going back to something you shared just a second ago is with building out and obviously it's like you're not just going live, you are creating an event and you're marketing it to your community and your audience that you already have. Your old customers, perhaps your customers that haven't bought, like you're doing that, right? But you said something and I want to really highlight it, and this is an event marketing tactic that is now being used in the direct consumer world is you need to make sure that the event that you're marketing is unique enough and has you were talking about a compelling offer to where I don't want to miss that. And this is where a lot of things miss the mark. I come from I used to do a lot of show promotions and concerts, and I was in the music industry. And what we knew about concerts is a band won't play the same city every week because it isn't an event. They have radius clauses, and they have to hit it in a certain time frame to make sure that that event is unique enough to make sure that the draw of their entire audience will come out. Now, if we're going to look at that into doing a live stream event, if you're going to do a live stream every Friday at noon, you may not have the audience to support getting people out to actually come and support your live stream, right? So you need to make it have a little bit of scarcity behind it and be like, if you don't get to this one, you're gonna have to wait a whole month, right? So you have to, there's a really good, the timing of it is you need to be a little more specific and making sure you have the time to market these particular event. And it's a direct parallel. Like think of most bar nights that you see or events they usually have a cadence of like once a month or every other week just to make it a scarcity enough to where it's like they will get the people out.
Yeah, but I have to say though that scarcity is obviously very interesting. Now I want to say that you also have to think that it's not because you're doing a live that it stops at the live, right? So you can create a conversation after the live. And first of all, it's content. And it's evergreen content, especially if you're talking about a regular product and you're making a demo and everything. So this is content that you can reuse to your own website and make it compelling next to your product page or things like that. But what's very interesting and what we're seeing is that actually most of the sales don't happen during the live stream. They happen on the recording of the live stream. And what we see is that it's anywhere around 60% of the sales happening on the recording of it. And the reality is, first of all, people are thinking like, oh, we need to do like a short form content, because everyone loves short form and everything. But when you think short form and you think like maybe 10 minutes is already like something that you think is really long. But who show up at an event where your boss is not in and be on time. Like no one. I mean, I don't know people where you invite them and you say, hey, it's at 6 and then they show up at 6 on point, right? They will show up and they won't show up before for sure, but they'll probably show up at 6:10, 6:15, 6:20. So you definitely want to think about that. And that shopper what we see is that you have to make your event long enough for people to tune in. Now, you know that people are going to tune in only for a short period of time, maybe 6, 7, 8 minutes. So you want to recycle your content through that period. And then once the live is over, that live is there and people can keep tuning in. So I think my point of view, what's very important is when you're looking at a technology, and there's plenty of options out there. I'm not saying eStreamly is the best, whatever. Think about technology where the recording is available at the exact same spot that the live was. So people that tune in after the live, they can still shop and see that live if they miss it and still shop. And that's very important. And that's what we provide eStreamly is that continuity. And actually that's where you're going to capture that tail of sale coming up. And it's generally a week that we see sale. And after, you don't see much sales unless they are in a product page. Then it keep on selling.
Absolutely. Now, talking about kind of the recycling the content through the streams, that's new to me. So what I'm hearing is we're doing a sale. I'm a brand. We're doing a product release. And so, I'm going to run through my script about the product every like 5 or 6 minutes and kind of just fill in the fodder in between. You would say is a best practice approach to running a live stream.
Yeah, do a live stream. First of all, if you think about creating a video, a fixed video for your site, like this pretty video, and a 2-minute video will take you 3 hours to produce it because you want it to be perfect, right? If you go live stream, if you want to create a 2-minute live stream video, it's only going to take you 2 minutes, right? You press the button, you go live, you end is live, period. So what we're saying is that do your pitch, do whatever you have to do. And then once that's over, take snippets of that, take the piece that you really love and then repost it like for a week. Like maybe there was like this huge question that you felt was really on point by that shopper and that you responded right there. So it makes very genuine, right? From your conversation, like someone asking you, hey, why did you choose blue? And then you have a whole story behind it. And it's very important to you that people know that. Take that moment and then share it on social. So use that content as snippets so people get enticed and learn about your product in a different way. That's how we say it.
Absolutely. So as far as like, what would be a good length of time to plan to be live? Is 5 minutes too short? Is 1 hour too long?
That's an awesome question. Yeah, it's so the length of the preparation to go live, right? So that's what you're asking. Like what we feel is a great place. We've seen company trying to go live on a Wednesday and advertising on Monday. This is not working. Mm-hmm. I think having a 2 weeks pre-live is good. And you don't have to do it you don't have to do everything every day, but you want to do a social post, maybe a blog. Yeah, something that's really cool right now. Live shopping is a hype. And so if you're a brand and especially if you're from a minority or if you work with this creator that is very unique, I will encourage you to do a press release. And every time we had press. People love to know about and you have to have local press, but it's another way of publishing and it's free publishing. So do a press release, tell that you're going to go live on Tuesday and that's what you're going to fare. And then there will probably be a press that just want to show up and make a picture of you because that's the new thing that people talks about. So think about this. Think about email marketing. I encourage you to do at least 2 emails to pre-event, do a teaser video. We have a whole, schedule on our website that we offer for free for people to think about those steps of how do you market your event.
Absolutely. And now we're going live, right? We picked the time, we're doing it, and we're going live, right? How long should we be live?
My personal recommendation is a 30 minutes because you see the peak of audience at 22 minutes, and then that starts to slowly decline. But you know that by 22 minutes, that's where people are starting to tune in. So you want to keep them on until the end. And then 30 minutes is my point of view, the best. We have seen people doing an hour. The thing is that when you go on social, we enable restreaming. So if you're on social and you have like a great host that is enticing people, the algorithm the more you have people engaging on your live, the more the algo is going to show. Like, so if you do a long show and you have like a really awesome creator and that engage, then the algo is going to keep on showing to more. And so your audience is going to keep on growing. So my recommendation is like, if you shoot for half hour, it's great. But if you feel that, hey, I'm keeping up, like my audience is growing, then I will not stop. I will just push it because it means that the algo is keep on pushing you on social. So you want to keep that on social because the way you want to think about social is a way where people discover you. And then some of them are going to transfer to your site. Some of them are not, but they still have heard about your brand and wants to know more about it. And maybe they didn't shop on that live, but they shop on the second live or on the third, or they just start to understanding about what your product is about. So keep on with the algo. The algo will push you the more you produce. So
absolutely. Now, a lot of our listeners are, I'm a Shopify expert here, right? And it's no secret that it's my favorite platform out there. I know that you guys integrate with all the kind of big ones out there, but let's say like what kind of integrations exist for my direct-to-consumer platform and why is it useful?
Yeah, so the way we operate with eStreamly is we are working on a private app. It's not a public app, it's a private app. So we'll send you a link and then you just accept and then we do that. And the integration that we work with, we're a little different from all the different platforms you have out there because we believe that the payment should be directly on the video as opposed to a push to cart. So most integration that you will see out there, especially on the Shopify side, people will see the video and then you have a button that brings you to the cart. What we see is that it's great, but then those integrations it's not always helpful. Then you cannot do cross-selling. There's a lot of complication. And then when you embed that video onto a different website, then you're losing, you're moving customer from one place to another. So with having the payment on the video, the customer is only focusing on the video and then can make the payments and all that. So what we will do on the integration side, we will push the order directly to your system. We'll connect with your payment processor. So you still remain the merchant of record and everything. It's just that the order is going to go through your system. Your order confirmation will go yours. So like the order was coming. It's just like having a storefront basically.
Absolutely. So I'm going to get all that customer data. They're going to go into my my email marketing software, and I can do all the stuff that I want to do. It's just allowing them to buy it in real time while watching the video.
That's right.
That's fantastic. Now, you talked a little bit about kind of like this, almost like a playbook of how to run this. What is that? Where do I go to find that?
So we have our website. It's called try.estreamy.com. And then we have a resource tab. And on the resource tab, there's a bunch of podcasts and free ebooks and stuff that we have. And so you can download that, or you can always send me an email. It's easy. It's Nicolas@eStreamly.com, ESTREAMLY.com. And I'm happy to share that info.
Absolutely. Now, is there anything I didn't ask you about that you think would resonate with our audience today?
That's a good question. I think the why now is important, in my point of view, because it does require some figuring out. Like, let's be honest, it's not like, I don't know if some in the audience have tried a podcast. It's like, as you say, Chase, it's not like you go in front of the mic and boom, you get an audience. And so it does require some figuring out. Now, thinking that live shopping is not going to be a thing, in my point of view, it's not thinking it the right way. Like, if you look at what's going on in China, there's no one website where there's no live shopping on it. And so I think thinking now what live shopping could be for you tomorrow will prepare you to be the success tomorrow. And the success is not going to come overnight. And so trying and error, testing things out, trying what works for you, what else works for you, how do you make this happen? You don't have to spend a lot of money. I mean, like there's a lot of software that will make you spend a lot of money, but just take something that make you try. I think it's important because you want to get that first information, building your community. So when everyone talks about live shopping, not more about, hey, it's a thing, but it's a real thing where people see sales, like massive sales, then you're there. You're already there. You establish, and for you, it's a sales channel. It's easy, and you're going to get market share this way.
I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I'm sure I'll have you back and we'll chat about this stuff. For all those listening, we're going to have all the links in the show notes below. Nicolas, thank you so much.
Thanks.
We can't thank our guests enough for coming on the show and sharing their knowledge and journey with us. We've got a lot to think about and potentially add into our own businesses. You can find all the links in the show notes. You can subscribe to the newsletter at honestecommerce.co to get each episode delivered right into your inbox. If you're enjoying this content, consider leaving a review on iTunes. That really helps us out. Lastly, if you're a store owner looking for an amazing partner to help you get your Shopify store to the next level, reach out to Electric Eye at electriceye.io/connect. Until next time.